The terrorist, calling himself Fury of Solace, is holding Los Angeles in a grip of fear. His most recent target, Max Mason, president and CEO of pharmaceutical giant Mason International. Tonight, on Crisis, I'll be joined by a panel of experts, each of whom have a unique perspective on the Fury of Solace phenomenon. We'll lead off with noted psychologist Temperance Jones, whose book, The Superhero Complex, has been at the top of the bestseller list for 7 weeks running. Next, please welcome Los Angeles Police Commissioner Harlan Stone. And last, but certainly not least, one of the few survivors of the Mason Tower bombing, Max Mason himself, coming to us live from an undisclosed location. Fury of Solace claims to be a man of the people, but his recent high-profile bombing of Mason Tower claimed the lives of 13 innocent bystanders. One day, he's quoting New Colossus, and the next, the deaths of more than a dozen of the poor and huddled masses he's supposedly fighting for are considered acceptable losses. And this is where I'm going to open it up to the panel. Do you think Fury of Solace means to ferment a new revolution in this country?
Well, whoever Fury of Solace really is, we know he spent time in the military. He said as much. He's openly expressed remorse for the innocents who died in his crusade against Mason International, but ultimately, I believe he views them as casualties in this personal war he's waging.
So we're looking at a veteran turned supervillain. How does that happen?
Fury of Solace has no powers that we know of. So when you get right down to it, he's just a man in a mask. Under the mask, he's just a marginalized ex-soldier. But when he puts that costume on, he turns into a boogeyman of mythic proportions.
I don't care if he wears women's underwear. Fury of Solace is a terrorist, pure and simple. A fear-mongering psychopath in love with the sound of his own voice.
To a certain extent, I think his dogmatism is his downfall. If he hadn't have felt the need to live blog the kidnapping, Mr. Mason wouldn't be here with us today.
Commissioner Stone, it's no secret that the LAPD works closely with the vigilante called the Orphan. Isn't your tolerance of these so-called superheroes inviting more costumed criminals into our fair city?
Well, first of all, I've said it before and I'll say it again. The Los Angeles Police Department does not sanction the efforts of the Orphan.
Let me point out, Starla, that there is a precedent for this kind of collaboration you describe. The New York City Police Department has cultivated a number of mutually beneficial partnerships with members of the superhero community. Why shouldn't LA reap these same benefits?
I don't think that you can...
Besides, unlike most of her contemporaries, the Orphan chooses not to conceal her face behind a mask. Surely that's a mark in her favor.
The only reason the Orphan doesn't have a secret identity is because she's enamored by the celebrity lifestyle.
Now that seems a little unfair.
If Miss Warren wants to fight crime, more power to her. But let her do it with a badge on her chest like the rest of the rank and file. People like the Orphan and Fury of Solace who work outside the system are out there setting their own agenda.
Catching purse snatchers is a lot different than blowing up buildings.
Well, no offense, Max, but you don't exactly have the most objective viewpoint on this subject.
You can't compare the two. She saves lives, he takes them.
What we've been dancing around all night, Max, is exactly why Fury of Solace is targeting Mason International. Solace has very publicly accused your company of crimes including bribery, unlawful experimentation on unwitting human subjects, withholding scientific breakthroughs from the general public, and cold-blooded murder. How do you respond to these accusations?
I was told this would not be discussed.
For the record, exactly none of those charges have been shown to hold any water.
I understand that the reconstruction of Mason Tower is already underway. With Fury of Solace still at large, what makes you think he won't try again?
What's the alternative? Tear it down? Fury of Solace blew up my building to send a message. And if we finish the job for him, then he's won.
It's not the building I'm concerned about. It's the lives that hang in the balance.
Now, Miss Carter, no one is more heartbroken over this tragedy than I am, which is why I'd like to take this opportunity to formally announce that all the proceeds from this year's Mason International Charity Ball will go to benefit the families of the victims of Fury of Solace.
Bravo. Those poor souls are the reason we do what we do. Which brings us to tonight's reality check. Fury of Solace. What exactly do you think you're accomplishing? For all your proselytizing and acts of terror, you have changed exactly nothing. And if there's any truth to your claims about Mason International, do you really think that if Mason were to die, his successor wouldn't do exactly the same thing? Get over yourself and get the hell out of my city. I'm Starla Carter.